We would like to invite Mark Zagorski, who's CEO of Telaria, one of our top sponsors for this event. Mark has over 20 years of digital advertising experience and marketing leadership, and he has worked at, of course, Telaria, but Exalate, Nielsen, Mediaspan, and World Now. And he'll walk us through connected TV and the opportunity ahead of us. So with that, thank you and welcome, Mark.
All right. Good morning, everybody. How is this is a full room. So this is like Ad Tech Thunderdome. You guys are right on top of me. Hopefully I get out of here alive. It is kind of weird that there's so many of you here today. Isn't this supposed to be a busy week for advertising? Did you just guys hit the easy button and just walk out and say, I think it's going to be okay? All right, so I want to start off this morning with a joke because, you know, those always go over really well in these ad tech symposiums. So how many people here watch television? How many people here watch television? Let's see your hands. Show your hands, because you know everyone loves to raise hands. Okay, keep your hands up. How many people here skip over ads using cloud DVR or some other way of skipping ads? Keep your hands up if you do. Okay, so that's the joke, guys. That's how you make money. Yet almost all of you are skipping ads. Isn't that kind of weird? That's like a cattle rancher who's a vegetarian. You know, it's not working. So obviously, you know, we've got some challenges here with the space because of this. Because when we think of what advertisers always want to do, it's about capturing eyeballs, right? Every piece of technology that we'll talk about today is about how do we get more of these? How do we get more people viewing what we're doing? But what we end up doing is this. We've created people who want to cover their eyes. We've pissed off everybody in this audience. And we've said basically, look, we don't care. We've created a situation that's so uncomfortable that most of you are skipping ads, right? Even though that's how you make your living. You don't want to watch them. That's bad. So what do we do about it, right? Well, and how did we get here? Well, if you think about TV, let's take a step back to the Wayback Machine. It started off with advertising as content. I mean, that's how TV started, right? Let's do something. They were called soap operas because soap companies sponsored them, right? And they were non-obtrusive parts of the show. They talked about the advertiser. They did a read over. It was okay. People felt this is a gift. Look, I'm getting something for free from these guys. This is awesome. And then fast forward today, where you have 32 spots in an hour, right? We're crushing people, and that's a challenge, right? And we're all digital folks. So what did we do? We're supposed to be smarter than everybody. We're going to do this better. So we launched over-the-top TV. And what do? We put 32 spots in an hour in most cases. So we've done the same thing. We've created a challenge, right? But all is not lost, okay? We may have been ruined, but there's a generation out there that's yet to be ruined. It's called Generation Z. We're waiting to ruin them. Trust me, we are. But we have a chance. We have a chance. We did a recent study with Hulu, who is a great partner of ours. You may have seen that they launched their private marketplace or programmatic private marketplace yesterday, powered by Telaria. And we did a study with them talking about Generation Z. We looked at a couple different things. And if you look at this generation versus all the other demographic groups we looked at, they still haven't been as jaundiced by TV ads yet, right? They don't mind. There's 54%. So we still have a way above Trump rating here with this generation. We're doing okay. And as a matter of fact, to the point where this group, which sounds insane, actually shares ads. 40% of them have said, I've shared a TV spot or I've shared a video ad with somebody else. Okay, so we got it. There's an opportunity here. This is a generation that we can work with. And that's when we start thinking about the technology that we're building and the process that we go around, how we can do this. So what is different about this generation and why do they feel this way? Well, if you think about it, they're a generation that's been in control since day one. They've always had the ability to skip ads. They've always had the ability to pause things and walk away. They've always had this on-demand capability, whereas most of the people in this room, as I look around, have similar hair loss as I do. You grew up with, at some point in your life, there were several channels of which you turned the knob and you couldn't get away from the commercial, right? These kids didn't. So they're in control. They look at things differently. So the way we approach them has to be different as well. We have an opportunity here. I think if we think about the components of that opportunity to build a great experience, it's built on a few things. It's built on how many, so frequency, how well we do it, so the experience, right, and how relevant it is. So think of relevancy, frequency, and experience. If we do those things well, we can create a good ad experience for people. Because if you look at, this is a study we did earlier this year about kind of ad loads with across all generations, and what they feel the right amount is. So we take that first thing, which is kind of a volume and frequency. Even for people who are paying or hybrid models, so subscriptions / ad models, they all feel like a big chunk of them feel like they expect fewer ads, right? They know they have to get them, but they expect less. Who I really want to talk to are these people who feel like they have too few ads. That 2%, maybe we could just build our entire business on those 2% of people. I don't know where they are, but if we find them, we could serve them 60 minutes of ads an hour and 2 minutes of program or a minute of programming. But if you think about it, we have a majority of folks who basically just say we have too many ads. But as is always been with technology and advertising where we sit, the numbers don't add up with what they're willing to pay to get rid of those ads, right? It just doesn't. The metrics don't work, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So if we think about those three factors, so frequency or volume, relevancy, and experience, there's critical ways of dealing all of these. So frequency, when it comes to CTV, think about how viewers view over the top. There are critical aspects of how we do ad podding that are really important to determine frequency. I think there are tools and platforms like Telaria's which allow for competitive separation, ad podding, et cetera. These are going to be critical parts of how we address audiences. And I think that OTT providers that don't use technologies that allow for competitive separation, that don't control frequency, are going to be challenged. You're going to create a really terrible experience for consumers. That second thing, accuracy and relevancy. We can ensure through data integrations, both from third-party data, collected data on OTT, that we don't miss much. That's important, right? Because we are getting into a space where this generation, in addition to being in control, is used to some type of relevancy, right? They've grown up with targeted ads. They've grown up in a digital world in which data is being used to target them. In the video world, it's no different and shouldn't be any different. I know we are early days of OTT advertising in which people, in many cases, are just happy to get into a big screen in someone's living room over the top for advertising. That's going to change. The same kind of parameters. As volume goes up, as more inventory is available, advertisers are going to become more demanding of the type of targeting and accuracy that they can have against that. We can ensure that, and there's technology that can pull it together. And then finally, this is a lean, when you think of the living room versus the desktop, you have a lean back experience versus lean forward experience. I think in OTT, we're kind of coming to the middle of both. When we look at over the top, it is a lean back experience. You're in the living room, you're sitting on the couch, but in a lot of cases, there's also engagement with other technology at the same time. Either way, we've got to create an experience with those consumers in which they're not blown away. And by that meaning things like audio modulation, right? It sounds simple, but unless you're using tools to allow for that, you're creating a bad experience. If the commercial comes out at an incredibly loud volume versus the rest of the content, it's a problem, right? You're creating a bad experience. And as a matter of fact, you're breaking the law if this was linear television, because the FCC has regulations that say you can't have a commercial that runs louder than the programming around it. Now, how that's applying to OTT these days, not sure. But we have to assume that's going to be there as well. So having these tools to create this experience, balancing frequency, relevancy, and the actual consumer experience is how we're going to generate optimal revenue, right? This is what our tools focus on as Telaria and what the industry needs to start embracing as a whole. I mean, John on the panel earlier had some great comments about measurement and what they've done to change, because they were driven by poor measurement to try to do different types of advertising. But it's also created a different type of experience on Cheddar too. They do call-outs, they do read-throughs on air. It's a different experience. And they've created a very loyal audience around that because they've created a different ad experience. If we think we're going to adapt to this OTT world, we need to look at the technologies that can bring that unique kind of customized experience with something that can actually scale, like we've had in all the other digital aspects of our business. Okay, so what's the opportunity here? And here's where we'll start throwing some numbers at you, right? It's big, and I'm sure you've seen some of these numbers before. Last year, 4 million people cut the cord. 4 million people said no more cable subscriptions. Last quarter, it was 1 million. We're losing 1 million people a quarter just saying, no more. This is a huge, huge shift in general. And as we saw with newspapers, which I was involved with 20 years ago, and radio, these shifts don't happen like this. They collapse in steps. Whole groups of consumers, whole generations of consumers just decide not to have a subscription, period. So you lose a generation, and then you start eating away at the older generations as well. This is a big opportunity for us. What does this OTT business look like? Well, it started off as being on demand, right? This was the Netflix revolution. It was high quality programming. It was movies. It was scripted. It was all of these things. This is what the business was. It is now becoming live, right? It is transforming through companies like Sling and others and Hulu. This is becoming a live TV environment that's over the top. So you have the characteristics of linear combined with the characteristics of digital, bringing you a whole different business. And it's not just, and sports is obviously driving a lot of this change. If you think about World Cup last year, the World Cup broke viewing records across the world for streams. Convivio, who's one of the sponsors here today, actually measured that in the first 10 days of World Cup last year, there was twice as many views in the entire tournament previously. That's huge, right? But it's not just sports anymore. The second most streamed live event ever in the history of Europe was This Little Marriage. You may have known these people, right? It was a huge event, second most streamed. Second to only one other event. Anybody guess? His brother's marriage. So little Harry still hasn't been able to beat his brother. Someday he'll win a race somewhere. But, look, we got to give the guy a shot. He's trying. So we've got marquee events really changing the world, or changing the way people stream. And we talked about generationally how this changes. When you think about the opportunity, again, and how this falls by steps, take a look at this study that was done by Nielsen about audience composition across different platforms. It's pretty remarkable when you look at the median age of live television is 56 years old. So I am rapidly approaching that median age, and I can tell you I am not the target consumer for where people want to spend their ad dollars, right? It is other generations. And if we are not focused on kind of the digital aspect of this and creating a great experience, we lose the advertising opportunity there too. You've got to look at the connected, versus connected device. You've got a 14-year median difference. That's massive, massive. It's a groundswell. It's a massive shift. Most of you get this in this room, but the key is most of the people outside of here, a few blocks away in Rockefeller Center and other places, do not. They're holding on, just as John said in the panel before, they're holding on to linear television as hard as they can. Because if we can just make this last a little bit longer, I can get my kid through college and that's it. I will be happy, right? It's over, right? This is happening in waves. And we have an opportunity now to make sure that this experience for advertisers and for the consumers is a good one. So let's think a little bit more about this generation that's coming in for. 18 to 34-year-olds are spending 85% more time watching internet-connected devices than those ages 50 to 60, okay? Big numbers. People 18 to 34, less time watching traditional television years ago. But video viewership, overall TV watching is up because TV watching, according to Generation Z, is anything that they watch as a stream. They consider that TV, okay? That's TV today. It's not TV how most of us grew up, but that's what they consider TV. So there's more video being viewed than ever in the history of video programming today, yet less being viewed in a linear fashion. So who's left? Who would call these cable keepers? Who are the insane people that are still paying those high cable bills? Well, who's left? There's more bad news. 48% have considered leaving. So of those group, 48% already said, yeah, I'm thinking about leaving. And another 11% said they plan to leave in the next 6 months. Start doing the math. You start losing 11%, then 11%, 10%. There's no one left, okay? That's the challenge here. And again, the challenge is not in our business digitally. You know, we see the groundswell occurring. It's how are we going to take advantage of this in the right way? As we see those folks leaving, we see ad dollars starting to flow into CTV. So we consider CTV basically large screen delivery of over-the-top premium content. This number, these are numbers from True Optic. I'd give them a for validity. You know, there's a little question about how they got these numbers, but even if you cut these in half, even if you said we think it's half as much, you're looking at a $4 billion OTT advertising industry this year, right? And 6 to 7 billion next year. This is real dollars going in OTT. And this is for television-like programming. These are 30 and 15-second spots that are being run over the top. And we see this with the players in the marketplace right now. You guys have followed Roku and their success in ad revenue, 93% growth from 2017 to 2018. Hulu, who's been around for a while, is still experiencing 13% growth over the same time. But here's where the disconnect is still happening and where the opportunity lies. In 17, advertisers spent $5 per user on linear for every $1 on CTV. It means there's a big gap there, right? They're spending way more to get way less. So I think there's a big, again, the opportunity is big. And who saw this right off the bat? Our friends at Amazon, right? So big opportunity, big sports network is being spun out based on some M&A activity. Who's in the mix to buy them? Amazon. Why do you think they're moving to Long Island City? There's lots of reasons, but New York is the center of entertainment for TV, right? You start buying TV networks, you start wanting people who are in the TV business, you want people who understand TV advertising, who understand over the top. New York is the place to be. So Amazon is in the mix. You've got to believe that they're going to be going more aggressively into advertising. Because think about this. There is no other company in the world that knows exactly what you buy, when you buy it, and now will know when you watch it and be able to connect the two through a single login that you've already have, through the hardware device that they sold you and the stick that they sold you to plug it in. It's the perfect match. And live sports, can you imagine how they're going to bring that together? This is amazing. So this is the groundswell that's coming. What about Netflix? Everyone talks about Netflix. Oh, they're huge, the subscription business. They announced we're never, ever, ever, ever going to be we're never going to do advertising. And then a month later, they say there's some promotional commercials that have come up. They're just promos. They're just promos. Well, promos are a great way to test technology, to see how advertising works and to test things that go out there. So I'll pretty much guarantee, here's my prediction for next year. Netflix globally starts selling advertising. They're not going to start in the US, but it's too expensive and they can't get the rollout that they need to outside of the US because people aren't willing to pay those subscriber rates that they have. You'll see it. There's lots of analyst reports coming out on Netflix right now. They can't continue to lose money. They're going to move into advertising next year. They may not be selling you the same Ginsu knives that Amazon will, Netflix, but they will be moving into advertising somewhere in the world. All right, so where does that leave us? There's still hope, right? We still have hope to save the next generation of people who want to sit in front of that TV, who we don't want to touch that dial, who we want to have a great experience. And it's our challenge for everybody in this room to start looking at how we advance our tools to do so and how we address both the experience, the relevancy, the frequency of ads that we put together, and engaging tools, some like Telaria's, to make that happen. Because the future of advertising and the future of these two children and the money that they will spend with all of us as they become slowly enmeshed in the television world is in your hands. But we do have an opportunity not to screw this up, right? So that's my diatribe for today. I thank you very much for the time and for the effort, and we appreciate everyone here at IAB for helping us along. Thank you.